we're here for the Business Leaders Digital Forum 2020. Now, this interview series focuses in on transformative leadership through the COVID-19 environment. And I'm very happy to welcome our guest, Jorge. Please do introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Jorge Sebastiano. I am a Portuguese Canadian, so I was born in Lisbon, but I did most of my studies in Montreal and Ottawa. And first 10 years of work was in North America in quite a variety of organizations, including, for example, I spent 5 years in Canada Post, where I was one of their youngest managers. And about 25 years ago, me and a colleague were sitting by the barbecue in Montreal, and we said, where can we go and not pay any tax? And we came up with 4 or 5 suggestions, the World Bank, the United Nations, African Union, and Middle East. So I said, the first one that comes up, we go. Because we were working for, at the time, for Computer Associates, CA, which at the time was probably #2 software in the world. Interestingly enough, CA was managed by a Chinese American from Shanghai called Charles Wong. So we have a very good upbringing and a very good corporate culture. So we came to the Middle East working for Computer Associates, and I stayed 5 years in the Middle East working for CA across a variety of a little bit over 20 countries, from Lebanon to Africa, all the way to India and Pakistan. So it's quite a, you can say, a wider Middle East coverage.
Yeah, very portfolio.
And exactly. And in the last few years, I mean, I had my own cybersecurity company for about 8-9 years. Worked for some of the large system integrators that belong to Kuwait Finance House, KFH, known as ITS. I spent 5.5 years at Huawei, the Chinese company, as a CTO for ecosystem. And in the last, you can say since the beginning of the COVID period, about January, February until now, I have been doing certain large projects as CTO, one of them in Bahrain, associated with real estate tokenization. So it's basically, you can say, a regulated blockchain fintech implementation. So,
okay, how
exciting. That's a very quick overview, but you know, we can have a long version some other time.
No, thank you. So that leads me in nicely to my next question. So you were talking about the past few months. So what was the immediate impact of COVID-19 on your line of work and the business that you were involved in?
Actually, the impact was major in some areas, and in other areas, you can say that in our line of work, we had to be quite agile and substantially reinvent how we did this line of work. In my line of work, I spend about probably between 60 to 80% of the time on the road. There's about 3 months of the year that we don't travel, period, which is mostly July and August, and around the Christmas period or the, you know, the Ramadan period, because things are a bit quiet. But on the countries that are not affected by that, it's basically business, almost business as usual. But you can say that the COVID period forced us to kind of reinvent ourselves in the way we dealt in terms of the way we conduct presentations, the way we meet with customers, the way we collect requirements, the way we move forward with proposals. So you can say the face-to-face meetings kind of almost disappeared. So, and they were relegated to maybe less than 5% of the meetings, although it's coming back slowly in some parts. But in terms of being busy, I think it's been actually the other way around. So when you do a lot of travel, there's, as you can say, a road warrior, you waste a lot of time in airports. So yeah, you can say the lounge becomes your office for a few hours, or the coffee shop, or you can pretty much work anywhere. So that really means that when we looked at this situation associated with COVID, the parameters of being able to work in such environment were already there. So we can really work from almost anywhere. We need a powerful mobile, we need a powerful laptop, we need a strong internet connection or 4G. And if we have those, we can pretty much perform all the tasks that we need for our work, and that's it. So you can say that the time that was previously wasted in travel between countries or others now is basically become more productive time. So it leaves a bit more time to go canoeing in the sea or swimming, and stay a bit more healthy, which is also important for this period. So if you're not commuting every day, maybe 1 or 2 hours, so that means this becomes extra time that is now usable for work or for leisure, for family, or so it kind of rebalances your entire workload in quite a radical way. So I think it's, although some aspects people may look at it negatively, I think it's been quite positive. Of course, not every organization was ready for such radical transformation in a short period of time. And those that are not ready, of course, will either substantially contract or disappear altogether. And the ones that are, then, that reinvent the way they provide products and services, they will thrive and actually increase substantially their revenues as well. So.
Well, exactly that. So it sounds like you already had the infrastructure in place to sort of buffer against the immediate impact of COVID-19. And for others, yes, it is a case of reinvention. This scenario is a catalyst for some. Okay, so what would you classify as some of the challenges specific to your industry? And do you believe management teams are adequately prepared to handle these?
Actually, the answer is yes, because in our line of work, we are already quite familiar with using, you can say remote tools to coordinate activities between the team. So we use things like Creative Cloud, we use Bittrex 24, we use GitHub, we use Asana, we use Teams. I mean, there's a whole series of tools that enable you to cooperate with teams that are in many countries. And this is not new. I mean, as far back as 1999, we're already working with distributed teams all over the world. So for example, at the time when I was in cybersecurity, although some of our development was here in the Middle East and in Germany, we had actually a large remote team in Vietnam doing encryption. And this is with an organization that was a partner called Secude, which was a German-Swiss cybersecurity organization. So that really means that, and why would they be doing that? It's very simple, it's economics. So back in 1999, 2000, one graduate PhD in Germany would cost about 12,000 euros. The same graduate PhD in Vietnam will cost 1,200 euros. So it's a factor of 10. So, so for one PhD in Germany, you get 10 in Vietnam. So we had at the time about 20 PhDs in Vietnam work hardly on the product. And we used to rotate some people to go there and visit them and coordinate. So it does require some face-to-face, but not too much. So a lot of the rest gets done remotely. And this enables you to coordinate the documentation. And you can say to some extent, the work ethic in Asia is a little bit different than Europe or North America, in the sense that many of you have probably heard of the term sometimes referred to as 996 or 997. So it's an interesting term, but in our business, it really means 9 to 9, 6 days a week, or 9 to 9, 7 days a week. So in Asia culture, meaning whether it's Vietnam or it's China, or whether it's Singapore or Korea, Japan, all these countries have a slightly different approach towards work that is much more intensive than you have in Europe or Middle East or even North America. So that means you have a lot of dedication that goes into effort. Okay. That does not necessarily mean that you move faster, because I mean, you do need time to relax and to kind of have creativity built in. But if you have the right sprinkle of mixture in the team of various nationalities, then you can achieve much faster deliverables and a much more productive approach. So you can say that, working in this remote approach has been quite a big change. I can give you an example even much earlier than that. When I was in Canada Post, probably back in 89, 80 something, Canada Post at the time had a fairly large IT department of over 1,000 people, and we needed to increase to 3,000 or even more. And as you know, when you have so many people in IT, it's become just very difficult to manage. So we decided to shrink the IT department from 2,000 down to 50. And in the process, we actually increased it to 3,000. So we ended up doing massive outsourcing of the IT department from Canada Post to companies like DMR, SHL System House, and Anderson. And they become the core anchor outsources for various areas of the business, basically running at the time the mainframe, running the engineering, which was the sortation within the postal stations, because a lot of it was automated by machines, and the strategic planning. And the 50 employees that remain in IT were basically responsible for the core strategy, the business plans, and the intellectual capital of the organization. So that really means you focus on what is your core, and the part that is not core, you simply outsource it. So that really means it can be onshore, but it can also be offshore, depending on the approach. So you can say the things that are happening here in COVID have been around for quite a number of years. Is just basically probably a little bit more intense in the approach that is being done, but it's not new.
Sure. So you're very familiar with having distributed teams and the communication that comes along with that. So nothing new there. Okay, so what are some of the new and emerging skills that you feel are needed in this current climate?
Well, many skills are important and have always remained important, but definitely one of the most important skills, I would say, is probably creativity. I always say to my teams, the answer is not in the book. Many people in our business have a kind of a cut and paste approach towards their solutions. Means they have some knowledge and they take a bit of knowledge from here, from there, and they cut and paste, and they just implement the solution in the fast way possible. But sometimes you need a bit of creativity. You need to think a little bit outside the box. So a combination of innovation, creativity, and agility is important. Agility meaning being able to do it in a short period of time. So you can say in today's modern world, any kind of IT solution that you deploy, the project duration should not be more than 4 months. So that means any project that you say, oh, it's going to take 2 years to roll out, is simply not going to be so successful. So it really means using techniques like prototyping or agile development or Scrum as methodologies enables us to move much faster, and the approach that we create new applications, where these are web applications, these are mobile applications, blockchain, or a combination of all the above, basically put together. So I think that's important. The other skills, a little bit more soft, that I think are important other than just knowledge on technology is definitely good communication skills. because when you have remote teams, you need to have the capability to address these remote teams using effective communication. So that means you need to get them, did they get the message across? They understood the requirements? So this becomes obviously an issue when you have multicultural teams and multi-language teams. So this comes into play, for example, when you deal with Vietnam or China or others, where when you're conducting a team that has different language backgrounds, then you have to slow down the pace for the meeting to adapt and to allow everybody to absorb the information and the knowledge that needs to be exchanged. So a meeting that between two British or British and American that could last 15 or 20 minutes, it may take 1 hour to achieve the same results when you have a multilingual team. I have some cases in which we are not dealing just with two languages. We're sometimes dealing with three languages or more. So in some of my teams, we have a combination of German, Russian, English, all at the same time. Now, the fact that I speak a few languages, about 7 of them, so that helps a little bit, but it does not fix the fact that you still need to adapt to the pace of the other team members. But I've become used to this because I've done a lot of teaching over the years. And typically when you do seminars or workshops, which 1 day to 5 days, one of the important things when you conduct a workshop is you need to adjust your level of knowledge and the language to the lowest level of the people that are attending the seminar, and then you slowly bring them up to the full power of the information that you're trying to transfer. So this makes quite, more productive, and you actually are able to communicate all the key elements of the knowledge so you can impart them. So this becomes very important when you're actually conducting meetings and you're collecting requirements for the project so that everybody is on the same wavelength. So that means you need to ask lots of questions and say, okay, can you repeat for me what I just tell you, how you understand it? So it does slow down a little bit. But one thing that is important is like the technology that we're using for today's session is not new. I mean, we have used Skype for a number of years. I remember when I came to Middle East around 97, I mean, doing one of these calls was almost impossible. I mean, it was just traditional communications. Today, when you drive between Bahrain and Riyadh, you can actually conduct a video call while you drive. So a global 4G coverage over a highway that's about 600 plus kilometers enables you to drive and conduct the meeting while at the same time. Now, of course, new technologies like Zoom with extra features and the capability of very good bandwidth utilization because of the problems with the existing network congestion has been able to capture the market in a very radical way. So that really means we can conduct now a multi-team meeting, and that means 1 to 10 people, or a seminar up to 500 people or more, and have a decent quality of delivery and communication. So, and this is why this organization today has got a valuation that, if I remember correctly, actually surpasses Boeing valuation. So you have an organization that is very young and relatively small that today is valued a little bit on the stratosphere because of the usability factor. Yes.
Exactly that. So I'll leave my next question quite open because you're so embedded into the digital and tech space. So how is your business leveraging technology to enable a more efficient workflow, automation of processes, things of that nature?
This is where technology can help you play an important role. So there's tools like Teams, Bittrex, Asana, and others that enable teams to cooperate together in distributed development. So you can create a common work plan. You can collect the requirements that need to go into the products that you're developing, and then each team can actually cooperate together. Let's go back even to something very simple. Forget complicated, sophisticated development. Let's assume that you and I want to cooperate together because we want to write an article for a magazine in the next few days. If we use something basic like Google for Business, or even the free version of Google, we can basically share a Google document, which is no different and is exportable and compatible with a Word document. And we can simultaneously edit this document lively. And each person that is on the call can actually see the updates live that everybody is doing in the document. So not only you have 2 or 3 things that are important. One is the document is being updated in real time. So that really means you don't have to have this concept, oh, I need to save again. The document is continuously saved. The second one is as people are making updates to the document, they get reflected live for everybody. So you have a shared view. It's like having a shared whiteboard and where ideas get communicated. Now, I'm talking about a Word document. This can be extended to a mind map. So if you establish a cloud-based mind map, then everybody will see the various hierarchical relationships being defined in real time. And then this can be exported into a document in outline mode. So it becomes the spine of the document or the table of contents, or they can be exported into a project plan. So it creates the major tasks that the various team members need to do and are responsible. So you can say the tools that are available today enable quite a high degree of productivity. Now, there's some work obviously that needs to be done to enable this. I mean, and this means things like, for example, educational institutions need to move a lot of their content online. So that means they need to convert some existing content. They need to record some good quality content. And if you have a combination of all of the above, then you can achieve a much more productive environment, whether you happen to be teaching as a school or university, or you happen to be doing technology like I am, or any other kind of business. I think one area that has become also extremely important is what we call the touchless economy, in which you are creating a multitude of marketplaces. And I can give you an example from that. I am a member in an organization called Studium in the UK, led or leader by a great colleague called Denise Guarda. And in this organization, he has created a solution over the last 4 years called iDNA, which enables to combine all these technologies for the touchless economy in an extremely effective way. So that means you have identity management to onboard you to the mobile application. It has a wallet built in, so you can transfer money or pay for services or products. There's a messaging component, so you can chat or do video. Through the messaging component, you can do funds transfer as well. Then it has a marketplace where people can locate and advertise their products or services. It can also have an educational component where you put content. And finally, it has a reward component. So if you do something good, you can refer other people. So you grow the platform in kind of more rapid way than just through traditional ways. So you no longer need to use advertising to actually get traction with new customers or new services. So this type of technology has already been implemented in places like the Central Bank of Mauritania and Africa and other locations as well. So that really means that all these new technologies or integrated technologies enable businesses, governments, and other organizations to now start offering their services or the services to their citizens in a much more innovative way, That really means many things have changed. So people today, traditionally, the laptop is no longer the device of choice for accessing the internet. It's actually either the pad or the mobile for great numbers. So as long as you have a good internet connection and you have a good screen, even in the case you don't have a screen, you can use technology like Chromecast, which enables you to project your mobile screen into your much larger television. So by using these combinations of technologies, you achieve a much different way of working, a much different way of cooperating and becoming productive. So that really means, if you remember, there's a book that was written a few years ago known as "The World is Flat." You can say that technology is definitely one of the enablers of making this world flat. So enabling people of different nationalities, different geographic locations, of different capabilities to come together and actually achieve cooperation in a project or do e-commerce or many kinds of activities, learning or other kinds of activities. Now, does that mean that you still need to have face meetings? I do believe so. I mean, I think humans require this face-to-face touch. They require the handshake or the hug or whatever to establish, or the eye-to-eye contact to establish proper relationship. But after that part is done, a good portion of the work can be done remotely through these tools in quite an effective way. So.
Yes, very much so. The relationship is sustainable by remote means, of course. Okay, so it might not have been as drastic for you because, like you say, you were very much set up prior to this COVID-19. But has your business operating model changed at all to adjust to this new environment?
Well, yes, the business model has changed dramatically. Example, our traditional routine was to drive into the office every morning at 7 o'clock, come back at night, maybe 7 or so. So you can say that we only go into the office maybe once a month. So yes, the patterns of how we actually conduct work have changed quite dramatically. That really means that you need to deliver the output in a remote way. That really means also that you're starting to use newer technologies that are replacing the traditional ones. And one example where this radical change is happening is in banking. So we have seen the birth in the last few years of what we sometimes call the neobank. And neobank is sometimes called also the branchless bank or the virtual bank. Now, traditional banks have been a bit more slow towards embracing this new approach of doing banking. But today you can open a bank account in your mobile, do the KYC and AML to onboard you into this in a very short period of time and start doing the first financial transactions online. So that really means that you can pay suppliers, you can get paid for work that you do, all online. And of course, elements like, for example, digital currencies that now some countries are embracing. We call this a CBDC. So basically, digital currencies are being implemented in several countries like Barbados and others where they've been for some time live. And there's other countries of the world that are studying them in a very advanced way. China has done some pilots. United States is also moving. Parts of Europe have also embraced, not Europe as a whole, but some elements in Europe have done more advanced work in this. And of course, other ones that are outside of the digital currencies of the countries, what we sometimes call cryptocurrencies. Yes, there's some that are not very secure, not very, not very recognized, and there's thousands of them, but you can say there's the top 10 that have established a very strong foothold. One of them, of course, being Bitcoin, Ethereum, and actually one of the ones that has done most traction is something known as USDT, which really means it's a digital version of the US dollar. So that really means where Ethereum and Bitcoin tend to go up and down, sometimes up to 5% or more in a single day. USDT is USDT, meaning $1, 1 USDT. So yeah, there's a variation sometimes of 0.1 or 0.2%. But a stable digital currency enables then commerce to be conducted in a much more effective way. So that means, let's assume you book a flight or you book a hotel room or a course. If you were to pay it in Bitcoin or Ethereum, sometimes there's a chance that by the time the transaction clears, which can be sometimes 10 minutes, the price that was agreed has already changed because of the fluctuations in the currency. If, however, it is conducted in USDT, then the price remains the same. So people have adopted those combinations as a way to use and do commerce. So you can say you're using more Bitcoin as a store of value, like gold or others. Well, there's also projects that are actually now tokenizing gold. I'm assisting one of them known as Ubuntu, which is a very large project in Africa headed by Mamadou Touré. And this project over the last 2 years has created an infrastructure to create, again, a stable digital currency or token that is backed by gold. So as soon as you have an asset-backed token, that means it has stability associated with it. So you can use it much more effective as a way to transact. The third example in the virtual world has to do with the project that I'm doing in Bahrain, in which we're doing something known as real estate tokenization. As you know, in the traditional world of real estate, the cost of transactions is high, liquidity is low. You have things like mortgages and title deeds, processes that need to be audited. And this can become quite costly, quite cumbersome, and very slow. So when you move real estate to digital assets and digital tokens, what happens is you enable much higher degrees of liquidity. You also enable the capability of entry-level people to own a percentage of a building rather than the whole building or the whole apartment. And you simplify the way in which those transactions can be done. So a much higher degree of liquidity. I think similar of this has already been tried before. Many of you have heard probably about things like, for example, Marriott Vacations, where you can buy a membership and this gives you access to 2 weeks in a hotel anywhere in the world. So you can say this digital fractional ownership of real estate is similar. Okay, you're actually not living inside that real estate, but you benefit from the value increase or the capital increase of that real estate. And you can also benefit from the operational returns of that real estate. So the management fees that get charged to operate and the returns of maintenance, of the elevators, the electricity, etc. Security of the building, etc. Those all provide basically returns to the investors in real estate as well. So you can say that the digitalization of the world that we live in, we are actually creating digital twins. So we have digital twins for gold, digital twins for currencies, digital twins for real estate. So this enables us to function much more effectively in a touchless economy. And it actually is speeding up the approach in which we can conduct commerce, financial transactions. And it's enabling a whole new generation of entrepreneurs and innovators to be successful as well in the process.
Exactly. So do you feel that the compulsions imposed by the market conditions now necessitate a perhaps more stringent KPI-driven approach to track metrics?
Well, yes, I do. I mean, sometimes the market does not reflect reality. And one good example of that is if you look today at the US stock market vis-a-vis the financial conditions, the unemployment and all that. So the stock market has been rising at extremely new highs than it was before, while at the same time, the conditions on the ground don't match that. So that really means that it is being, you can say, artificially created or artificially maintained. But I think in due time, the corrections take place. So that really means, people come down to realistic expectations. So the value of those assets then, over time will get corrected to actually reflect the current situation. And the same thing applies to the new economy assets. Like, for example, one example is like Zoom, where their valuation is extremely high. But over time, you'll see that there will be a correction associated with the number of users and the number of paying users of that platform. That really means, in today's world of the digital economy, the important aspect about digital implementation like Zoom or others is the number of users they have and the number of active users and the number of paying users. So that means a combination of all of these is driving the real value of that organization. And other important metrics include, for example, the conversion that they have of traditional users to paying users. And also the importance is what we sometimes call the churn in the industry. Churn is the capability to retain customers. So as Zoom was able to introduce new features, as we move forward, the competitors are copying some of these features. So for example, you have now Google Meet introducing virtual backgrounds. You have Facebook introducing much larger audiences to their live performances. So they are looking at Zoom as one of their competitors, and they are themselves innovating or copying, depending on how you see it, to catch up and retain their position in the market. Because if they don't, then the ones that are more agile and more innovative and capture the user base are the ones that actually win in this new approach.
Of course, of course. With innovation always leads to me too type companies. So yeah, you have to keep on pushing, keep on driving.
Correct. But you have to understand that one thing I think is important here is the ones that innovate first have a better position. We always have this thing we say sometimes, everybody remembers Neil Armstrong, the first guy who stepped on the moon, but nobody remembers the second one. So the same thing is true in technology. The ones that have the first step approach have the chance to grow and be the winners in the game. But in technology, that is not always the case. For example, Facebook was not the first one to do social media, but they were the first one to do it in a more agile and fast way than everybody else. Eventually, they also, did not move at the right pace. That's why things like Snapchat, TikTok, and others came around in a much more innovative way. They understood the importance of video. They understood the importance of what we sometimes call in our business snack TV, or the capability to consume video the same way you eat snacks. So I call it snack TV, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
So if you're able to address these new millennials and Generation X, that's it. You capture the market at a much different speed than the more traditional, slower moving innovators. So you can say as organizations become big, and Facebook has become big, they move much slower. So the younger ones that are more agile are able to capture the market much faster. and are able to innovate faster, and therefore they deserve to win over the long term.
Okay, well, finally, I'd love to ask, what's on the horizon for you?
Well, Horizon is really to do projects that have an impact on people, that have an impact on society. I think the thing that is important as we move forward is to do things that help a lot of people the most important way. Actually, one of my colleagues, actually I have two colleagues running for president, each one with their different views. Just by luck, one is John McAfee, which is a cybersecurity friend for many years. And the second one is Brock Pierce, which is originally a child actor turned Bitcoin enthusiast, and has helped a lot in their innovative projects to help countries basically survive major disasters. But one interesting aspect that was communicated by Brock a few years ago, and this dates back about 2 years, he may put a slide that I still remember today. And is a new definition for the word billionaire. We always think billionaires people that make a lot of money or trying to do things, but his definition was quite interesting. New definition of a billionaire is somebody that has a solution that actually helps 1 billion people. So that really means, I think we have to think in terms of having innovative solutions that have an incremental or low cost and are able to drive an impact to a large population. And we have many areas of the planet that have challenges. Example, we have many challenges in places like I visit, like India, Pakistan, 50 countries in Africa, not all at the same level. You can say South Africa is more developed, Egypt is more developed, Morocco is more developed, but there's really in the 50 plus countries in Africa, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So if you bring the solutions that can help the population and the countries do better, and really mean is the governments are simply too slow. They're not moving at the pace that the people require. And a lot of these countries also have a young, vibrant population. They see on YouTube, they know what being successful is all about. So they have energy and they want to do something good. So we just need to give the tools and the approach for these people to do the right thing. And then, magic happens. The countries are able to radically change and have new economies that were not developed before. And I think entrepreneurship and startups are the new economy. If you look back at the United States 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the base of the economy is not the giant organizations, it's the little small startups that you have of 5, 10, 20 people. Yes, some of them become big, but not all of them. But the fact is that a lot of these startups and innovations that happen in parallel actually power the economy in a very vibrant way. So if we can do this in places like India, Pakistan, and Africa, then we are achieving a good social impact for the planet in the process.
Yes, yeah, I believe the entrepreneurial spirit is very much alive, and I love the new definition of what it means to be a billionaire. And on that note, I would really like to thank you for your time and your insights. It's been an absolute pleasure. So again, thank you, George.
It's my pleasure to be with you and looking forward to the next session. So I wish you the best success in your interview series as well.